Welcome back to AgriTalk. We are in Omaha, Nebraska for the American Coalition for Ethanol Conference. A lot to talk about. We'll talk a lot about the renewable fuel standard and the calls that are coming from a lot of different areas to make changes in it, and we'll talk about why that's not really a good idea, and we'll get into that. But I want to talk about what is happening now as we're starting to try to bring E15 into the marketplace, and that is a slow process, as we have talked about. And here with us is Ron Lamberty, Senior Vice President for the American Coalition for Ethanol. Ron, here at the conference, you're talking about the very slowly changing fuels marketplace. It does take time, doesn't it?
Well, you know, we're dealing with a marketplace where the primary product's made out of dinosaurs, so I guess we should probably expect that. But E15 has been, I think the first approvals came through in October of 2010, and the final approval was January of 2011. And there's been all these rules and regulations. You know, your previous segment, Robert mentioned that 4-gallon thing that was the last thing that was thrown at RFA's, their plan to make sure that people don't miss fuel. And it was, you know, the argument was goofy, but you got to go with those things. You got to get those concerns answered. So I think right now we don't have E15 in very many places because of a Reid vapor pressure maximum. In Kansas, they were able to do that because they can buy the lower Reid vapor pressure base fuel and blend it. But I think the middle of September, September 15th is when the Reid vapor pressure season ends. I think we'll see some locations pop up probably September 16th. So we've heard from retailers who said we're going to go ahead and offer it. It's a fuel that their competitors aren't going to use, and that they can make available, most of them through existing pumps and tanks, and 60% of the cars, which buy 80% of the fuel, can use it. So there's going to be retailers that jump on it. And hopefully what that does is what happened with E10 across the country is when people see their customers buying E15 from the competitors, the other guys will have to say, you know, do I just concede that market to them, or should I get on the bandwagon? And we think they will.
We were talking about misleading, inaccurate information about ethanol. Just the other day, my wife comes up to me and says, I just heard on national TV a commentator say the reason gas prices are going up is because of ethanol. If you're putting a corn-based product and corn prices are high, that's what's making gas go. It just shows how much inaccurate information goes out there. Obviously, they didn't even do their homework to see that ethanol lowers the price of gas.
Well, I mean, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've seen gas prices. I mean, I own a couple of gas stations. We've seen our gas prices go up by 30 cents, 25 or 30 cents. That coincides with the reports of less ethanol being made. I mean, it's a supply and demand issue. If there's less supply, then the prices are going to go up. And we found that more supply of the same stuff doesn't help either. Because of all this talk about all the fuel we're finding and all the different things that are going on, shouldn't the price be going way down? And it's not. This isn't about finding more oil. This is about finding things other than oil so that oil has to compete. And as our production goes down as an industry, oil prices are going to go up. That's what's happened here. But it is interesting. What infuriates me is, you know, I mean, there's very few people. You know the facts of the things. You look into them. But how a guy can say that in the media, and that there's nobody there to say, well, wait a minute, we just looked this up. How is that true? Ethanol's right now, I mean, rack prices are 40 cents less than gas still. They were $1 less for most of the first part of the year. So how is it? It's nonsensical, and it wouldn't take 30 seconds to look it up and find out. But you watch the Sunday morning shows and see how many of the commercials on those are from oil companies or the I'm an energy voter thing. And I think, you know, we just got to have media that does their job in the country and looks into the facts. And if we're telling some lies, they should smack us too. But we're not. Facts are on our side. And that stuff does get really irritating, and good at least a couple of guys are noticing it and doing something about it, or at least pointing it out.
And quickly on the renewable fuel standard, a lot of people jumping on it right now because of the drought, and really not looking at the fact that it's a piece of legislation that is actually working. It's flexible. It has adjustments that can be made and are being made.
Right. There's a feature that with the RIN feature, which is a credit trading program. You can use gallons that you bought in previous years above the standard. So it's not even really a gallon that you have to use. You can use those to offset your obligations this year. EIA, the division of the Department of Energy, put out a report yesterday that said we're on target to do about 12.6 billion gallons of ethanol this year. That would be 600 million less than the renewable fuel standard calls for corn ethanol, meaning that since we started the year with about 2.5 billion RINs and 800 million gallons of ethanol in storage, we'll probably still have somewhere around 2.7, 2.8 million RINs going into next year, and that's without making any changes. There's a waiver process in there for a reason, but if they went through it right now, the facts would say it doesn't justify it now. Will that happen this fall after the harvest? I don't know, but those pieces are in there. That if there is a crisis, there's a piece of the RFS as it exists now that can take care of it, and that's the way the process needs to go.
Thanks, Ron.
You bet, thanks.
Ron Lamberty, Senior Vice President for the American Coalition for Ethanol. We'll take a break, come back, learn about the Urban Air Initiative. That's next on AgriTalk.